Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Academic Writing Amplified. I'm Kathy Mazak, founder of this podcast and Scholar's Voice, the professional development company that helps academic women and non-binary professors write and publish to the level in line with their expertise. I'm so excited to let you know that our Navigate program is now open for enrollment. Yes, that means that we are accepting applications. So all you have to do is go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, where you will find all the program information, including program pricing, all the modules, how the calls work, call date and time. And you will see that our applications are open. So when you look at that pink button at the top of the page, it should say apply now. Now, our applications are only open until April 19th. And our application process is a 3-step process. First, a really quick application that you can fill out on your phone. So if you're listening to this podcast on an app on your phone and you're not driving, then right now you can go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, find that pink button. You can fill this little application out even as you're taking your walk. And once that application is accepted, then you will get a link to take our Navigate benchmark assessment, which is our tool that we use to measure your progress throughout this process of developing your writing and publishing. We do it at the beginning and at the end of our 12-week program. And every time you take Navigate, we repeat it so that you can see your progress throughout your journey towards mastery of the key concepts that we teach and develop inside of Navigate. Once you've done the benchmark assessment, which really doesn't take that long, it's about 20 multiple choice questions. It's totally straightforward. Then you will also get the link to schedule a quick 30-minute pre-enrollment call with me. So that means that you get to talk directly to me, get all your questions answered about the program. I go through a process during that pre-enrollment call where we are both figuring out whether Navigate is the right next step for you. And if we both decide that it is, then I'll invite you to enroll right on the call. So go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate and apply for Navigate today. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back. I've got a nice little juicy bonus episode for you today. And our bonus episodes are in celebration of the fact that right now we are enrolling for our Navigate program. So if you don't know about Navigate, then I would love for you to, actually, I think you can hop back in the feed and listen to our Navigate information session podcast episode. In that episode, I go through the whole curriculum, the program, the application process, everything, so that you can enroll and be with us this summer in our 12-week Navigate cohort. Just so much fun. I can't wait. This cohort that we're in right now is ending, and this group has been so wonderful. And we're just a few weeks away from the end, and it's just been great. So I encourage you to check it out and apply. You can go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate. And at the top of the page, first of all, on that page, you'll find all the information about the program, including the price. You have to scroll down to the bottom to get to the price. But at the very top, there's a pink button. It should either say apply if you're checking it out today or within a week from now, or get on the wait list. And if it says get on the wait list, go ahead and put your email in. If it says apply, it's a quick application you can do on your phone. Check it out. I really would love to work with you. And in our application process, there's an actual call with me. So if you always wanted to chat with me and you're interested in the program, then you get to do that. So much fun meeting you all. Okay, so let's jump in. This episode is about revisiting the ideal week. There's an episode of this podcast, it's in the first 10 episodes, about ideal week. And this is a concept that I use inside of our Navigate program. It's about week 7 or 8 in the program. It's in the middle somewhere. And what we do in Navigate is we start with your publication pipeline, your project management. Then we start to make space in your schedule, kind of towards the middle of the 12-week program. And Ideal Week is an exercise that we do as part of that process. And I realized that it's something that people go back to again and again. It's something that when I was revising the program, people were like, don't cut Ideal Week. And I'm like, okay. But I also realized that there's kind of like a level 1 to Ideal Week, like the first time you do it. And then there's a level 2 to this work. And I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to kind of do a little overview of Ideal Week, what it is, how the exercise works. And then I wanted to talk about kind of up-leveling the Ideal Week practice or exercise, because some of you are ready for that. And I also have been working with some people in our round 2, and we call it round 2+ of Navigate. So the grads who are continuing in the program and get up-leveled coaching, we are exploring this kind of up-leveled Ideal Week idea. All right, so let's start with level 1 of Ideal Week. So Ideal Week is about mapping the hours of your day. We're going to talk here about your work day and your work week, although you can absolutely do this, including your home life. But for now, we'll talk about your career, right? So it's mapping an ideal week in your professorial career. And the purpose of this exercise is to get really real about the amount of time you have. The purpose is also to make an explicit connection between your calendar and the things you have to do or your tasks. So I think too many times, or too much of the time, we have an amorphous blob idea of what we have to do. It just feels like a lot of things. There's many projects. Sometimes we can name them all, sometimes we can't. And then there's the week. And there's no explicit connection between those two things. So the tasks that move the projects along are not mapped onto times in the week. So the Ideal Week exercise is asking you to make sure that you have time for everything that you are committed to. This exercise in the Navigate program comes after we do our activities alignment work. Activities alignment is where you use our series of rubrics to analyze every single activity. The word activity is purposefully vague because we need to include all the committees you're on, all the students you mentor, all the courses you teach, all the writing projects in play, all the research projects in play, like all the things. We guide you through a big brain download of all of the things that you have that you need to do, all the activities. And then we take you through a series of rubrics that helps you cull away and then align those activities that you can't cull. So by the time you get to the end of that process, then you're ready to do the Ideal Week exercise, where you're basically making time blocks during the week and organizing your time in blocks so that all of those projects get touched, or the ones that need to get touched weekly have a space on your calendar. All right. So again, we're making explicit the connection between your calendar and the tasks or the things you have to do. Another purpose of the Ideal Week exercise is to center your writing inside of your day. Okay, so a major concept that we talk about in Navigate and on this podcast is using your soaring state. Now, your soaring state is kind of like your best energy time of the day. In Navigate, we have an exercise that helps you figure out what that is. And what I found, and the reason I created this exercise and the idea of the soaring state, was that I definitely have a soaring state, and I was squandering it on things that didn't deserve my best energy times of the day. So, for example, like I would teach in the mornings and I would just be exhausted in the afternoon. But in the mornings is my soaring state. So it's my best time for writing, and I was teaching over it. And I don't need, because I'm an extrovert and I love performing, and that's one of the reasons I loved teaching. Like, I don't need to use my best energy for teaching, because teaching gives me energy. So it was really helpful to me when I started being able to teach in the afternoons and only on certain days of the week, so that I could use the mornings for writing. So that's just like a very simple example. And we take you through this all step by step in our Navigate program. But that's another reason, like if your soaring state is from 8 to 11, like mine is, then you want your writing at least once or twice a week to happen during that time. You don't want to be writing at night. You don't want to be writing on the weekends. You want to put writing in a central and important place. The best place in your week should be used for writing. It shouldn't get the edges of your time. So the Ideal Week exercise helps you achieve that. Also, doing the Ideal Week exercise helps you set up an app like Calendly, so that when somebody says, oh, do you want to meet, instead of like looking and having like an exchange of emails back and forth 1,000 times, you just are like, yeah, here's my link. And so you already have time set aside for meetings, for these kind of things that come up that people need to make time to talk to you. You have that set up, pre-arranged, and you know when that is. And so you just send somebody your calendar link and they put themselves on your calendar, rather than it could happen at any time. That prevents you from that urge to like please the person and bump something out of the way. So that's the purpose of doing Ideal Week, the exercise, the first time that you do it. This is something that I do over and over again, like every time things change. So for you, like whenever your teaching schedule changes or something changes, you want to redo this exercise. And you would just start, like, to give you the basics of this exercise. Actually, the first time I did it with crayons, because that's what was available. So basically, you just get a weekly calendar with, the days across the top and the hours that you work down the side. And you create blocks for all the things you do. So for example, you want to kind of create categories. So the first thing you'll probably put on your Ideal Week is your teaching hours. And then any other fixed hours that you can't change. So, your teaching is what can't change. Maybe you have a lab meeting at a certain time during the week, those kinds of things. And then what you want to do is then you want to create blocks for all the other things. So you want to have your writing and publishing block where you're focusing on writing and publishing activities. Again, we suggest always start with 1 to 2 hours once or twice a week. Don't go crazy. Like, you'll quickly be doing this exercise and be like, wow, I don't have time for checking email, whatever. You want to be strategic about where you put different things. So checking email, you want to put that someplace where you want it to be bounded. If it tends to take up too much of your time, put it so it bumps up against your teaching. So you have to stand up and leave at some point. Make sure you have time for lunch. If you can have time for a little walk sometime during the day, you put that in there. All the categories of activities that you do. And again, we take you step by step through this process inside of Navigate, but just to give you kind of like the general idea. And you create this Ideal Week. Now, In the process of creating the ideal week, you're going to freak out. You're going to be like, wow, I don't really have time for everything, or everything feels too busy. And these are good insights. Then you can start to think of like, how do I want to change this? Like, what do I want to do to make the schedule feel more spacious, right? That's the level 1 ideal week. So now I want to talk about level 2 of the ideal week. So this is after you've already done that, after you've taken our Navigate program and culled away things and you're starting to feel some spaciousness in your schedule. I kind of invite you to think about almost flipping the ideal week. So the level 1 ideal week, we're having you look at everything you do and then try to map it onto an ideal week. Level 2 ideal week is you create the ideal week. Like you map it out. What would your ideal week look like? And then you reverse engineer from there. So I was working with a client who has a great writing practice. She needs to work on project management a little bit, but in terms of honoring her writing, reading about writing, and putting boundaries on her writing, she was really good at that. So she wanted to create a week where there was like more spaciousness and different things happened. And that's when I said, okay, instead of having your ideal week respond to all of your tasks and projects, what if you compose or create or draw out an ideal week and then go backwards? What would you have to quit in order to be able to do that ideal week? What would happen if you took an hour-long walk and think every morning and then sat down and had an hour and a half writing block and then only checked your email once a week? What is it? Like, dream it out. What would it be? And so I wanted to do this kind of revisiting the ideal week because I want to offer that to you. I want you to think like, what would be really ideal? Because maybe you haven't even let yourself think about that yet. Like when I think about what would truly be ideal for me, I would write every morning, even though I'm someone who, like, of course, in my teaching about writing coaching, I reject the idea that you have to write every day, but I want to write every day. I want to read every day. And that would probably be the majority of what I did. Truthfully, it would be like write and read and read and write and walk. Those would be the 3 things that I did. And maybe I would take a nap. So anyway, that is an extreme ideal week. But think about it. Like, what do you really want to be spending most of your time doing? Map it out. Kind of make yourself a little chart. Create that ideal week. I want you to think about the idea of crafting, that you have the agency and the power to craft your ideal week. And that it's really important that you envision it so that you can get closer and closer to enacting it. I think from that perspective, this kind of level 2 or next level ideal week exercise, there's a couple ideas. One is, unless you can envision it, you'll never be able to create it. So you have to be able to think it up and say like, actually, this would be ideal for me. This is my ideal week. This is what I want to be spending my time doing. So you have to be able to think of it before you can start to pull your actual week closer and closer to the ideal week, which again is a process that could take years. But unless you can envision it, like you never would be able to do it. Yeah. The other thing is creating an ideal week and then retrofitting your work into it, or then going the opposite way, right? Instead of the level 1, the level 2, right? By doing that, you're answering the hardest question to answer, which is, what do I want? What do I want? And I want you to ask yourself that question more. Like, as women especially, we're like not supposed to want anything. You're really just supposed to just deal, right? Maybe you're supposed to get what you need, but get what you want. That's radical. And I want you all to be radical, truthfully. So I want you to think about that. Like, what is it that you want? Like, how do you want these days to feel? At the end of your career is the sum of how you spend your weeks. That's what it is. It's not anything apart from that. Your career is how you spend your days. So if you're spending your days checking email, then that's what your career will be. What do you want space for? If you had that space, what could you create? What new ideas could happen? What deep work could occur, right? So I wanted to present that to you as a way to, on one level, explain how we use Ideal Week in that first time that you do the exercise inside of our Navigate program. And then think about it from the other perspective. Create that Ideal Week and then kind of go backwards. What would I need to do to make that happen? Ask yourself, how do I really want to be spending my days? And then take action to make it for yourself, because I believe you can. I think that the first step is taking my Navigate program. So if you want to do that, if you want to radically change your career by having the time to write and publish, to having those publications that are going to give your career that power, that power to make decisions, the power to get more grants, the power to change your field and to change the world, then enroll in our Navigate program. It is the first step. It is the thing that I want all women and non-binary academics to do. So you can go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, apply for our program today. Applications are closing April 19th, and enrollment closes April 26th. And then the program's first meeting is Wednesday, May 15th. Go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate. You'll get all the information there. Submit your application to start the process. Have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to meet you during the Navigate application process. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.